From the basement at the Alamo, it's the DigiGods. And now, here's two guys that make Large Marge look normal. It's Wade Major and Mark Kaiser.
All right, Corey, thank you very much. Who sent that in?
That was sent in by Jason Levy.
Funny. Always enjoy when Corey does when he does his little impromptu Pee-wee. It's fun. Good times. Lots of happiness.
Yeah, and he did it right in front of us.
You did.
He didn't record this 3 months ago. He did it right in front of us right now.
Just now.
Wow.
So yeah, Hollywood is still here. Nothing's burned down.
No, I have not made you your key lime pie yet.
I know.
Are you key lime pie ice cream?
Key lime ice cream.
I'm going to do it.
Have I explained to you why I want that so badly?
No, you have not.
Okay, so Ciao Bella. Are you familiar with the brand Ciao Bella?
Is that the one that comes in a...
They make pints, like Haagen-Dazs or anybody else. They make pints.
No, but it's a see-through plastic tub, right?
No. Ciao Bella, they're just very colorful, but Ciao Bella, they make primarily sorbets. But they had, some years ago, a key lime pie ice cream that was absolutely to die for. It was the most wonderful thing ever. And I bought 10 pints of it on sale at one point. And a few weeks ago during a particularly excruciatingly hot day, I took that last pint out of the refrigerator and I plowed into it over the course of about 2 nights. And it's gone now. And I'm having a craving and I want key lime ice cream. And you're my only hope, Obi-Wan.
All right, I'm looking up Ciao Bella's. Maybe the...
Oh, there's a recipe?
Maybe.
I should have told you that last week. Yeah. Well, anyway, we should get really cracking into some stuff this week. We got a lot of stuff to go through. Classic movies, new movies, all kinds of fun stuff. But you know what? First, Mark, we're going to talk about some classic movies, and I should get into this week's Criterions and Coen releases because they are wicked awesome. I just want to say they are wicked awesome. We also got some Fritz Lang and a whole bunch of other stuff. But first off, the Criterions. We've got 4 Criterions that have come out between last week and this week, and they are all absolute must-owns, unless you want to wait and hope that they wind up on Filmstruck later this year. But man, this stuff just kills. All of them kill. All these great Blu-rays. From 1966, Orson Welles, Chimes at Midnight. Absolutely sensational. If you are a Wells fan, this goes without saying. It's just it's amazing. And Wells was always, as you know from his Macbeth and his Othello, Wells was a big Shakespeare buff and kind of a Shakespearean figure in real life as well. Anyway, here he kind of he takes his Shakespeare obsession into some really fascinating directions. And Falstaff is the avenue, is the conduit through which he does that. There's a lot of stuff here that kind of winds through various different Shakespearean plays, but it is really it's an exceptionally cool film and a beautiful restoration. Lots of great extras on here, including an interview with Keith Baxter. And a new
Ted Baxter from Married to Moore?
Absolutely. And a new interview with Orson Welles' daughter, Beatrice Wells, who was 9 years old when she was in the film. Anyway, Chimes at Midnight. Absolutely fantastic.
It's right here. Wait, listen to me.
What?
Key lime with graham cracker gelato, the Ciao Bella cookbook of gelato and sorbetto. It's right here.
Oh.
I can make it tomorrow. If I so choose, but I don't. No, but it's not a problem.
Oh.
But it only has 3 tablespoons of lime juice. That seems weird to me. It doesn't seem like a lot.
Well,
3
make it.
tablespoons.
I'll tell you if it's enough.
2 teaspoons of grated lime zest.
I'll tell you if it's enough.
No, this is easy. This is not a big deal.
And then 2 years after Chimes at Midnight, Orson Welles made his first color film at the very late year of 1968. And it wound up actually being the last actual film that he would complete, which was The Immortal Story, which is an adaptation of an Isaac Dennison tale, who was, of course, writing at the time under the name Karen Blixen and would some years later become portrayed by none other than Meryl Streep in Out of Africa, which would win Best Picture, which is something that always eluded Welles. Nonetheless, really absolutely fantastic movie. Just a beautiful, beautiful film. Very, very underrated. It takes place in Macau. And it's quite a great melodrama, actually. Jean Moreau stars in it. Just beautiful performance. Really, really, just a great movie. And everything that's great about Wells winds up in this movie. Also has an alternate French language version of the film among the extras. The audio commentary from 2009 featuring Adrian Martin is on here, as well as a 1968 documentary about Orson Welles called Portrait Orson Welles. Which was co-directed, by the way, by Frederick Rossif, who made many, many wonderful nature documentaries that Vangelis scored. By the way, have I mentioned there's a new Vangelis album coming out?
Is he still alive, that guy?
Vangelis? Yeah, baby. It's called Rosetta, in tribute to the European Space Agency mission, the Rosetta mission, which I know nothing about, but all I know is it's a new Vangelis album, and I'm very, very excited. So, anyway. And then the last two criterions... one is, I'm going to leave the best for last. The next one is A Taste of Honey by Tony Richardson.
Yeah, kitchen sink, baby.
Right?
It's good
Tony
stuff.
Richardson, man. Once married to Vanessa Redgrave, all those Richardson kids, those are his too. 1961, this was 2 years before he would go on to direct Tom Jones and win an Oscar for it and elevate that weird... English kitchen sink realism, angry young men thing into the stratosphere.
I like Long Distance Runner better than this movie.
Oh, I do too. I like The Sporting Life better than all of them.
Oh yeah,
Right?
that's the best. When is that coming out on? Actually, I already have. Is that on
It's
Blu-ray?
not on Blu-ray now.
I have the DVD.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Oh, Sporting Life. You know who else loves that film? Russell Crowe. He does.
How do you know that?
Because when the infamous junket for Gladiator, which is one of the most amazing roundtable interviews I've ever done in my entire career as a journalist. Russell Crowe came in. They packed 2 rooms worth. They brought the other table in because he had to go to the SAG lines. You know, there was I forget whatever it was. The SAG Awards were around the same time, and he had to go to the red carpet, right? So they had to finish this up early. Of course, Russell Crowe didn't want to do the press line at the SAG Awards, so he actually spent longer with the combined room than he would have with the 2 rooms individually, just to piss off the publicists, which was hysterical because they were like in conniption fits as the clock was winding down, and he didn't care because he was Russell Crowe, and it was a magnificent, just an incredible. Just to witness that sadism with which he wielded his personality. It was so much fun. But when he was talking about working with Richard Harris, he talked about them bonding over their mutual love for rugby. And they asked him, like, wow, really? You like Richard Harris? And he goes, come on, The Sporting Life. And he just, you could tell that this Sporting Life was just part of his essence, part of his karma, his chakra, whatever.
Well,
it was,
and you can
thing.
see that if you've seen that movie, you can see how he would be.
Oh, absolutely. You see Russell Crowe all over that character. Yeah, for sure.
I love that movie.
So anyway, Taste of Honey, good movie. One of the great British new wave kitchen sink realism, angry young men movies, whatever you want to call it. That movement, that era, really fantastic. Rita Tushingham, just fabulous. Just so young, and it just gritty Manchester, and that just, it's so good. Everything about this is just fantastic. All the extras are great. Interview with Tony Richardson from the 1962 Cannes Film Festival, audio interview in that case. There's an excerpt from a 1960 television interview with playwright Sheila Delaney, and a 1998 interview with Walter Lasley, the cinematographer. A lot of other great stuff on here. Really, really just a great criterion. And here's the one that just kills it this week. This is beauty through and through. From 1964, one of the great films of the Japanese New Wave, if not the great film of the Japanese New Wave. Hiroshi Teshigahara's Woman in the Dunes. Oh my gosh, what an amazing allegory. If you have not seen this movie, you have missed out on life. This is one of the great films of all time. It is certainly one of the greatest Japanese films of all time. It is amazing, beautifully restored, 2.5 hours of absolute sheer bliss. You know how last week we were talking about magical realism? Yes. This film's nothing but magical realism, but I love it because it's just wild. And the whole idea here is you have a guy who, okay, I'm not going to, if you haven't seen it, I'm not going to give it away, but you basically have a guy who winds up trapped in this sand dune with this woman. And why they're trapped and why she's trapped and all of that. is just a giant allegory for so many things in modern life, in Japanese society at the time. It's extraordinary. Anyway, just magnificent. This thing wound up getting an Oscar nomination for Teshigahara, very deservedly. He probably should have won, but it was 1964, so clearly that was going to go to My Fair Lady. But in any case, great stuff. Short films by Teshigahara on here, 4 of them from the early part of his career. Documentary from 2007 about the collaboration between Teshigahara and the novelist Kobo Abe. And on and on and on. A lot of great stuff. Really just fantastic. Gorgeous transfer. I can't even tell you how gorgeous this is. This film is just an erotic experience in every conceivable way.
I have an erotic experience in every conceivable way.
Yeah, that joke doesn't work today. Not in the way not in the way you're intending.
How dare you?
And then, kind of dovetailing with all of this stuff is we talked about Orson Welles. The Cohen Film Collection has also released a fantastic Chuck Workman film on Blu-ray, which is Magician: The Astonishing Life and Work of Orson Welles. If you don't know, Chuck Workman's the guy that does all those amazing montages that just cut together like 97 clips from 150 movies, and they all look, it's just, you don't realize how much work and time goes into that. What a great documentary. What a wonderful film to go with all the others from Criterion this week. You got to see this. Hour and a half that is a tribute to Welles that is an absolute delight. It is wonderful. Doesn't get any better than that. This is probably the best film, best tribute to Welles you could possibly hope for, and it's gorgeous on Blu-ray. Magician: The Astonishing Life and Work of Orson Welles. And then also from Cohen, the Oscar-nominated Mustang. Mark, you loved this too, didn't you?
Which
Mustang,
one?
the French film?
Oh, yes, I did.
Yeah, totally. It was kind of the theme in France and at the Oscars this last year, but France had a whole number of films about immigrants and non-French minorities, and Mustang was one of the very, very best of them. Turkish girls, 4 sisters, and kind of an amazing coming-of-age film. Really, really good. Very deservedly Oscar-nominated and absolutely worth seeing. That's on Blu-ray. Fantastic film by Denise Gamze Ergüven. And then lastly, I could not be more excited than to recommend 2 new films by Philip de Broca and a double feature from the Cohen Film Collection. The great de Broca, who just is one of my favorite directors of all time. 5 Day Lover with Gene Seberg and Jean-Pierre Cassel, the father of Vincent Cassel, and François Perrier. Micheline Presle. That is just an absolute delight. That is a wonderful 1961 French classic, but here's the reason you really want this. You want this for En Garde, which is one of de Broca's last films from 1997, which is amazing. Daniel Auteuil, Fabrice Lucchini, Marie Gillien, Vincent Perez, a tremendous swashbuckling period piece based on a novel, but just one of the most amazing. I mean, this is up there in Cyrano de Bergerac territory. Absolutely wonderful film. I reviewed this for Box Office at the time. Unbelievable. I remember at the Cannes Film Festival in 1997, this thing was being sold. I was like, that looks really cool. Then it came out. I saw it at the AFM. Could not believe how awesome it was. Love everything about that film. En Garde. Great double feature. En Garde and 5 Day Lover from Philippe de Broca. Fabulous. Fabulous.
You know what movie I'm reading about,
What are you reading about?
while you drone on about nothing?
Go on.
Wong Kar-wai's 2046.
Is that ever going to be on Blu-ray? People keep
know.
asking me about that.
I don't know, but
Yeah.
it was a bit of a because people thought it was going to be his Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Like 2046, and
Yeah.
he goes future. It really was not that.
No, not really. No. Not really.
I remember seeing that movie at the Cannes Film Festival.
Yeah.
The screening was so crowded, I had to watch the whole film at the Cannes Film Festival standing up.
Oh, that's beautiful.
The Commitments, 25th anniversary. This is Alan Parker's landmark
Oh, so good.
comedy musical. And this is during Alan Parker's Can Do No Wrong years.
It really was, wasn't it?
And
He like every film from like
Angel
19...
Heart and Midnight Express.
But from
and-
Midnight Express on, it was sort of like beginning with Midnight. Even Bugsy Malone is pretty great. But from Midnight Express, like up through Angela's Ashes, like every single movie is amazing. It's about a 15, 16-year just can do no wrong period. Birdie, on and on and on.
He had a Rob Reiner-esque. Remember how Rob Reiner came out of the gate with 8 great films?
Oh, yeah.
And then came North, and that was it.
Yeah.
Remember North? That destroyed it. Anyway, so The Commitments is it's all this amazing soul music from these great Dublin musicians. And
Andrew Strong.
It's just passionate, and it's just a great film. It's so much fun.
All live music, by the way.
They played it live.
They played it live.
Mustang Sally, Chain of Fools, In the Midnight Hour. It's just a great, great film. Cole Meany, by the way, if you're a fan of Star Trek Next Generation.
That's
right. He's in this, and I love this movie. I adore this movie. This movie was a bit of a mini phenomenon at the time. Mainly because the music was so fantastic. I mean, really, not since like the Blues Brothers did you see a film where like the music just you thought, wow, this is exactly how I want all of these songs to be ingested by society forever.
Yep.
In this movie.
That's it.
I love this film. The Commitments 25th anniversary edition, a must buy. There is a new interview with Alan Parker, who hasn't really done much. Alan Parker's kind of like he's out of the loop.
He's got a couple of things in development. Something is supposed to come out next year, I think.
You're giving me this, by the way.
No. Warner Archive Collection. Some great ones. Three this week. 2 on DVD or DVD-R, and the other one on Blu-ray. Oh, what good stuff. Edward G. Robinson. Always a delight. 2 really terrific ones. Unholy Partners and Blackmail. Not, the top of the list when you think of films that Edward G. Robinson made, but really, really good ones nonetheless. Blackmail obviously just screams Edward G. Robinson. If you're going to make a movie called Blackmail, going to make a movie about blackmail. Yeah, you want Edward, who did the Edward G. Robinson impersonation in the Bugs Bunny cartoons? Whoever did that, I mean, I'm assuming it's probably Mel Blanc doing an Edward G. Robinson, but gosh, the characterization is just
maybe
always
it was Edward G. Robinson. Maybe he had a sense of humor about himself.
Oh man, so funny. Anyway, H.C. Potter does this, which is a pretty kind of standard Hitchcockian-esque film about a guy who is blackmailed. And there are a few twists in the whole kind of wrong man scenario that we're accustomed to mostly from Hitchcock that don't quite work, but still it's a great cast and it's a great performance by Edward G. Robinson and some great supporting stuff in here. Gene Lockhart, always just wonderful, the patriarch of the great Lockhart family. Really, really good stuff. So a lot of fun if you love your Edward G. Robinson, and then Unholy Partners, a bit of the same thing. It's this is more of a melodrama than it is a crime or a noir thing, but it's got kind of noir edges to it. It's almost like Robinson brings the noir into whatever he does. This has a little kind of a post World War I angle to it. And that's worth checking out as well, Unholy Partners. But here's the big mama that you really got to love this week. On Blu-ray from the Warner Archive Collection, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, with Elizabeth Taylor, Paul Newman, Burl Ives. Just a legendary performance by the amazing Elizabeth Taylor, who really could almost do no wrong during this particular period. This was, 1950s and 60s she owned Hollywood. She was the leading lady. She could do whatever she wanted to. And you stick her in Tennessee Williams and boom, you've got gold. It is a terrific film. This was the first of many Oscar nominations that Paul Newman received, which he would not receive an Oscar for until finally they gave it to him for The Color of Money, which was weird. Probably the least deserving performance of his entire career. But just absolutely a terrific adaptation of Tennessee Williams, wonderfully done by Richard Brooks, who co-wrote the screenplay and directed the film. And other great performances in here include Judith Anderson and obviously Burl Ives, Jack Carson. It's just a fantastic film, really, really beautiful. And worth noting, Burl Ives performed the same part on Broadway. So for fans of Broadway who may have seen the Broadway stage production at the time, yep, Burl Ives took it and owned it on stage and on screen.
Burl Ives.
Silver and gold. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Come on, give it
cool.
up.
Rudolph,
right?
That's cool.
Same Burl Ives.
At least he did that.
Yep, there you go.
Anyway, Psycho 4 at the beginning, by the time Psycho 4 came out, really we had just, the legacy of Psycho was completely destroyed.
Yeah.
Because obviously Tony Perkins had nothing else to do with his career but play Norman Bates over and over and over again. This one from 1990 was actually made for TV. It was originally on Showtime in 1990, and it's kind of it's a sequel, but yet it's also a bit of a prequel. So it was written by Joseph Stefano, who wrote the screenplay for the original film. However, at this point, there's really you realize that Norman Bates is just not that interesting a character that he's got to last for 4 movies.
Yep.
All the guy really did was just stab a woman in a shower. That's really most of what he did. Otherwise, it's like whatever. Anyway, this thing is not very good. The cinematography is not great. It's the script by Stefano is kind of disappointing. Perkins looks older, and the character is just not that interesting. It looks shot for TV. I just think it's just a misbegotten film, and thank goodness at this point it was just like done. But Scream Factory, we love Scream Factory. Not taking anything away from the great folks at Scream Factory. We do love their stuff, even if this movie was not that great. Yeah. Mick Garris, who directed the film, gives us an audio commentary. He's very honest about the making of the film and what it took to get it released. And there's some behind-the-scenes footage, which is always kind of fun. But ultimately, the film is just not that great.
We got three from the Arrow collection. All of them, as per usual, they are Blu-ray and DVD combo sets. The first is Microwave Massacre, which is just a horrendous exploitation film that has some weird kind of a following for some reason. Wayne Berwick made the film. It's just one of those horrible gore, like it's sort of like wants to be a Cronenberg movie, but doesn't even come close. Anyway. It's got a following, so somebody's going to love this thing. 2K restoration from the original negative. Audio commentary with the writer-producer Craig Muckler, and it's, none of this is terribly interesting, but, including the featurette. But if you love the film, that doesn't matter. Also, Duccio Tessari's The Bloodstained Butterfly. From the Arrow collection on Blu-ray and DVD. This is it's a sort of a weird hybrid. It technically belongs to the giallo genre. It's got a lot, obviously the whole Dario Argento thing influences, but at the same time, it's kind of like a courtroom drama at the same time. So it's a bit of a weird genre splicing thing. I'm not sure that it works, but again, this also has a cult following, so more power to them. The one that is worth checking out this week is, of course, Mario Bava. The film is Blood and Black Lace. Blood and Black Lace has been on DVD before and has always looked horrible. This has a brand new restoration from the negative, 2K, and it looks gorgeous. It really is. This is as good as this film has ever looked. I'm not a huge fan of the film, to be honest. Again, I'm not a big fan of giallo. But if you have to make a giallo film, this is the one to make. It's a smart script. It's well-directed, well put together. Blood and Black Lace, definitely a classic in the genre. And you get English and Italian with subtitles, obviously English dubbed version, and gobs of extras here, interviews and featurettes and panel discussions and on and on and on. So much stuff from film festivals. It's endless. So they really just kick this up a notch. This is purely for fans. Blood and Black Lace. If you love yourself some bloody, lacy Mario Bava, this DVD Blu-ray combo set will just kick it up for you. It's wonderful.
Wait, less wonderful but still surprisingly okay is Session 9, the sort of film that I would really not like, but I kind of liked it. It wasn't that bad. It's directed by Brad Anderson, and it stars David Caruso, who has nothing better to do than to star in movies like Session 9. And there's a asbestos crew cleaning up a mental hospital that's been abandoned. And, of course, strange things start to happen in an abandoned mental hospital. And Brad Anderson is a better director than this sort of material would normally warrant.
I still don't think he's done anything as good as his first film.
Not Trans-Siberian, the other one.
No, the first film, which was with
jeez.
It's Next Stop Wonderland.
That's right.
I love that film.
It's true, but again, but normally this thing would be one of those.
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
I know.
He was fantastic in that movie.
Anyway, this is good. You know what? He's an adult directing a film that would normally be directed by one of those like cheap kids.
Mm-hmm. True.
And so it's really not that bad. Session 9. I was kind of surprised.
Yeah. We got a couple from Fritz Lang here. Fritz Lang's Destiny and Fritz Lang's The Spiders. Both of them from Kino, both on Blu-ray, and both absolutely essential for any Fritz Lang fan. Fritz Lang's Destiny from 1921, I will discuss just a little bit first. This is kind of a classic of mythical German expressionism. Lang always pushed all of the envelope edges when he was making his films in Germany, and at the late date of 1921, he was really, really kind of in his prime. His sound films are a bit of a compromise, in my opinion. It's his later silent stuff that is just absolutely sensational. And this is mystical and mythical and gets into all kinds of really, really fascinating kind of... I don't know. It's, I don't want to say it's like a zombie movie because it's not, but it does get into bringing people back from the dead. Kind of mystic Eastern mysticism, maybe is a better way of putting it. He's able to somehow infuse that into German expressionism in a really, really intriguing way. So Destiny is the film. And then the other one is The Spiders, which is one of his more popular films. This is about 3 hours long, and it's kind of a serial. It's meant to be a little more in the Indiana Jones vein, doing a little bit what his contemporary Louis Feuillade did when he introduced the whole idea of serialized movie drama. And so Lang dipped his fingers and his toes in that genre and proved that he could pretty much do anything. So it's definitely kind of an Indiana Jones thing with a little bit of espionage thrown in for good measure. I actually saw the Spiders and Spies both projected at the Academy with live orchestra accompaniment many years ago, and what an experience that was. I got to be honest. Those films, you forget how enormous a silent film actually is when you put that thing on a giant screen. Just the scale of the images blows your mind.
Well, also that Academy screening room is just beautiful.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Speaking of fantastic way, we have Basket Case 2 and 3. Now, here's the thing with Basket Case. Now,
you don't need to have seen number 1 to pick it up with number 2. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but if I haven't seen Basket Case, will I know what's happening in 2 and 3?
Well, these films were directed by a guy named Frank Henenlotter. Now, Frank Henenlotter had directed a film called Frankenhooker, which was a bit of a thing at the time.
Yeah.
It's about this guy whose fiance dies, and he decides to reanimate her using her. It was like her head and the body of Manhattan prostitutes.
Oh my gosh!
So it was completely ridiculous, and it was a bit of a cult thing. And so then he wound up doing a Basket Case, and Basket Case is about these Siamese twins, and one's normal, and the other is this ridiculously low budget looking monster thing. And so, it's very much in a vein of the straight to DVD horror film, the straight to VHS horror films of the time. The effects are ridiculous. They know they're ridiculous. They own their ridiculousness. So there's a lot of humor there. So we have Basket Case 2 and Basket Case 3, The Progeny, all directed by Henenlotter. And this is what he does. I believe he grew up actually watching these films as a kid.
Yeah.
And so now he wound up making them as an adult. So you really have to know what you're in for and just go with it, because if you go with it, you will enjoy the cheesy effects and you'll enjoy although this one was in 1990, I think, but 1990, 1991, but it still has that 80s direct to VHS aesthetic.
Yeah,
and it was a whole thing. Like It's Alive.
Yeah.
They all had that.
Yeah. What's with the goblins and what's all the things with the elves, dwarves, whatever all those things were called.
Sweet.
The leprechaun.
Leprechaun. That's
Leprechaun,
right. Chucky.
Right? Yeah, all that nonsense.
Love it.
Yeah. What are the ones with the little things that are like knockoffs of gremlins? They like roll around. What were those things called? Huh? You know what I'm talking about? No. They're like round. They're like gremlins, but they're like little
Charles
round.
Broccoli, the round.
No, they're round and they roll around and they chase after people. It's like little goblin-y things, and they tuck their hands and feet in and they roll around. And
really?
You don't remember this? Oh my gosh! Why am I not remembering the name of this? Carry on. Tell people about the spectacular glories of Rudyard Kipling.
I watched Jungle Book on a plane. I was flying to London.
Yeah.
I watched it.
That's the way to watch it, by the way. That's the way to watch it.
You know,
that's what they made it for.
You know, exactly.
You know, they said
all that CGI needs to be seen on a 7-inch screen on
that was
Delta flight.
at the production meeting. They said, but John, you know, because Jon Favreau directed it, they said, but John, this epic vision that you have, will people be able to enjoy it on an 8-inch screen on a plane? And he said, I'll make sure of it.
And yet, a year later, here I am, saying that I watched this on a Delta flight. Actually, it was Air France. I had no hope for this going into it. It just seemed like a Disney cash-in, but it's really not bad. You know, it's beautifully shot. The effects are great. The voice acting is good. It takes a little while to get into the world that he's setting up. But in the end, I just think it's to me, it's not as good as Life of Pi, which I completely adored and love that film, although I don't think Wade likes it. But
not at all.
But I thought this film was surprisingly okay. I really did. And the Blu-ray looks fantastic. Absolutely fantastic, because frankly, most of it was CGI anyway. And there's a bunch of bonus features, how they made the film. There's an audio commentary with Jon Favreau, who is very, very entertaining, because that's what he does. Jon Favreau is very entertaining on screen and in audio commentaries. And I was expecting nothing from this, and I thought it was great. I thought it had a heart. Digital animation was great. I was surprised.
It's either Ghoulies or Critters. One of the two.
Might be Critters.
I think it's Critters. I think Ghoulies are the ones that crawl out of the toilet, and Critters are the ones that roll. Gods at DigiGods.com. Remind us if you're fans of these movies in particular, and if you can keep them straight, because they all blend together in my recollection. Troll, wasn't there another one called Troll?
Yes.
Yeah. See, Leprechaun, Troll, Ghoulies, Critters. It was a horrible era.
Anyway, so the Jungle Book, I didn't really need the bare necessities. I felt like that song didn't really fit in this, but I guess because it's Disney and they have to sell a soundtrack, I guess it's got to be in there because because Bill Murray sings it. Anyway, as the only live action thing in this entire movie,
I still have to watch this.
The kid is good. It's funny. It somehow. It's when you watch it, it feels like a cash-in. It feels like it's just another one of Disney's let's make our animated films live action now, like Cinderella. Yet somehow, about 20 minutes in, you're thinking, you know what? This thing is kind of winning me over. And in the end, I have to say I liked it. It's good.
See, the 1994 version, which I can't believe was as far back as 1994, that kind of freaks me out a little bit, which was not a Disney animated thing or even a reference to an animated thing. I mean, that was Jason Scott Lee playing Mowgli, who, is a grown man and he's muscular and he's, and Stephen Sommers directed that coming off of the Mummy movies. I actually kind of enjoyed that. That's my recollection, but, very different take, obviously. Anyway. Yeah. So, other new movies. Me Before You. Did you see this, by the way?
I did not.
Okay. Me Before You. Emilia Clarke, Sam Claflin. Good-looking people. They both could do CW stuff if they wanted to. This is perfectly fine. Sweet romance. I don't know that there's anything particularly spectacular about this other than the fact that it goes for the whole disabled romance angle. He's in a wheelchair and she has to love him in spite of it, and what's their life going to be like, and all that kind of love story stuff, never having to say you're sorry. By the way, Arthur Hiller, rest in peace.
I know.
His wife died just like 6 months before.
Well,
it always happens, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Always happens.
I'm sure they were married for 40 years.
68.
68, yeah, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. My grandparents were the same thing.
No, some very good friends of ours. I spoke at one of their funerals. He made it to 100, passed away. His wife was 96, and she passed about 6 weeks later. And they'd been married for over 70 years.
That's
like
wild.
72, 73 years. It was amazing. Always blows me away.
It's not like that now. Nowadays, everyone goes in and out of relationships like it's night. They
I
just
know.
say they're swiping left for their wives.
That's crazy.
Nobody cares anymore.
Anyway, so Me Before You. I mean, it doesn't do it. What was the thing with Campbell Scott and Julia Roberts? What was that thing called? He's got cancer and he.
Oh yeah, it was. Hang on, I'm gonna look this up. I'm gonna pretend.
It's
like
a little bit. It's not quite as maudlin as that, but it's perfectly fine.
That movie
Good.
sucked, by the way. It was called Dying Young.
Thank you, Emilia Clarke. Absolutely wonderful. I will say that about her. She's just delightful. And then on DVD, The Nymphettes, which is from director.
Whoa, the
What?
nymphomaniacs?
The Nymphettes. It's from Gary
You've been
Gardner.
diagnosed with nymphomania.
That's it. Gary Gardner wrote and directed this, and it's a good small piece. It reminds me a little bit of Two Girls and a Guy, the thing with Robert Downey Jr., right, if you remember that. Anyway, this is about two women and one guy who meet, and it's a three-person, it's a three-hander or a six-hander, I guess, as they might call it. You just stick them in an apartment and let them play head games with each other, and it's for a movie that is clearly contrived to be done in a single location with three actors. It doesn't really it doesn't reveal the seams as kind of blatantly as a lot of these films do. This did very well at the South by Southwest Film Festival in 2015, and it's a good, solid indie, worth checking out. And I think Gary Gardner's got many other good films in him.
Yeah, you said you wanted water when the show started. And
Oh, yeah.
Water. I gave it to you an hour ago.
Wow, I didn't even realize that was my water. Thank you.
You are a jerk.
Thank you.
Anyway, a very different sort of baseball film I'm going to recommend. It's called The Phenom. And the Phenom, maybe like 5% of this movie actually takes place on the baseball diamond. That's because the movie is about this up-and-coming pitcher. He's going to be a phenomenon, greatest guy ever. Winds up having a breakdown. Right there on the mound, guy has a breakdown. And he goes to see a sports therapist, played by Paul Giamatti.
Of course he does.
And in seeing the sports therapist, he starts to get into stories about his abusive father, played by Ethan Hawke. Mm-hmm. And so really the movie is about a son coming to terms with his childhood and the abuse he took at the hands of his father. So the fact is that baseball kind of has very little to do with it. And it doesn't end on he strikes out the guy at the very end while the crowd goes wild. It's not that kind of a movie. It's being marketed as a baseball movie because there's a big, beautiful baseball shot on the cover art. But really, you know what? It's cerebral, it's talky, but it's got a lot of insight and smarts. And I was very surprised. I thought this would be another one of those sports movies, where he's going to pitch a perfect game. It's going to be great, and the last strike will make everybody freak out, and the music will swell. Not that movie. So it's a really interesting little indie. Ethan Hawke is great. Paul Giamatti, always great. And the kid, Johnny Simmons, he's quite good. So I recommend The Phenom. It's a different kind of baseball movie. It's a good one. Definitely worth checking out.
Very nice. Sunset Song. Sweet, very sweet, almost too sweet in some ways. This is from Magnolia, not on Blu-ray, sadly enough. Should be. Terrence Davies is a filmmaker who's always kind of divided people in some very strange ways.
I like him.
I do too. I mean, Terrence Davies' movies are all sort of autobiographical. I mean, he's basically forged a career out of making movies that are sort of like showing us slideshows of his childhood and his young adulthood. I mean, that's really what he is. He's a nostalgic autobiographical filmmaker. And but you know what? This is here's the thing. This is very much for the Downton Abbey crowd. It takes place on the eve of World War I. Basically, that same Edwardian background, that same Edwardian period as Downton Abbey, and it deals with how a certain young woman in the English countryside deals with all of the turbulent social and economic and political tides that are sort of sweeping the land at that time. If you've seen Downton Abbey, you know all what's going on. But Terrence Davies is much more of a poet than a storyteller, and so he wraps it up in his usual sort of the sweep of history is sort of like the rhythm, the poetic meter of the story. And it's quite beautifully done. Agnes Dane is the lead actress here. You also get an amazing performance by Peter Mullen, who just can do no wrong.
I love him. He's the best.
Isn't he the best?
Yep.
He's just everything he
shows. As a director, too.
Oh, absolutely. The Magdalene Sisters. He's a tremendous filmmaker. He's a firebrand, He's really just an angry...
Very intense.
Really intense guy. Politically very intense.
Yep.
Very outspoken. But he makes great movies. He's a great actor. Tyrannosaur. He just scares the daylights out of you. If you've seen the Jane Campion thing, the top of the peak,
top of the
hill,
Pops?
the top of the
top of the peak.
No, the
Crimson Peak.
That's it.
Star Wars.
There you go. Thank you. He's great in that. You know what else he is? If you've ever seen Lily's Driftwood Bay, because I have a toddler, I know this. There's an Irish animated show called Lily's Driftwood Bay about this little girl, and she puts like the stuff she finds on the beach, little shells and things, she puts it together, and then she imagines these little lands, and she sails off to these little fantastic lands. And the animation is all done like with pieces of string and pieces of shell and rocks, and it's not drawn per se. It's like they take actual objects and then they photograph them and then they turn them. It makes no sense what I'm saying, is it?
So the show's made out of garbage.
Kind of. So anyway, there's a dog whose features are all formed with like rocks, like little sea rocks. But the dog's name is Salty, and the voice of Salty is Peter Mullen. This guy who scares the daylights out of me every time he shows up in a movie. I think he's going to jump out of the screen and just bludgeon me with a stone hammer or something. And he's the voice of Salty, and it's a sweet animated show.
So what did Peter Mullen say to his agent when his agent approached him with this project? You want me to do what?
Oh yeah.
Wade, the director of Clown actually doesn't really want you seeing Clown. He's a little nervous about you seeing Clown.
Yeah.
Because Clown is a horror film about a father who puts on a clown outfit to perform at his son's birthday, only to find out that he cannot remove the clown outfit.
Oh, that's fabulous.
And it has terrible consequences. And it was co-written and directed by John Watts. And John Watts is like, I don't know if I want you to see this movie because my next movie is Spider-Man Homecoming. And so I don't know if I want you to see this horrific, very R-rated, disturbing, gory clown film.
Why was he hired to do Spider-Man?
I don't know. What did they... here's the thing. I have to be honest.
I mean,
somehow... No. Here's the thing. Somehow... I don't know if it was Kevin Feige, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
He was the one who found the Russo brothers and said, you know what? You've done a couple episodes of a sitcom. Here's $175 million. And they knock it out of the park.
I know.
Russo brothers are great. They knocked that out of the park. All their So if Kevin is saying that John Watts is the man, then I guess John Watts is the man.
Yeah, all right. Sure. This is an Eli Roth thing, by the way. He produced this. I don't know.
Yes, that's another reason why John Watts does not want you seeing Clown.
Ratchet and Clank, one of those quickly cranked out CGI animated films that makes no sense whatsoever. Especially, this is an animated film, and the tagline, ready to kick some asteroid? Really? Really? You went with that? That's what you went with? Blu-ray, DVD, and Ultraviolet on this kind of pointless thing from Universal. They even resurrected the Gramercy brand for this. Remember Gramercy for a moment?
Sure.
For a minute and a half? We had good movies coming out of Gramercy as an indie label. I don't know what Gramercy does for them, resurrecting it for this thing. But anyway, I guess this is a video game, or so I've been told. So Ratchet and Clank is a video game about a couple of, spacey type things, and one's some kind of an animal, and I don't know, whatever. There's a whole kind of weird tweaked anime type narrative world here that makes absolutely no sense. The animation's not very good. The only thing that's kind of entertaining is that there are some decent voice characterizations, which include Stallone and John Goodman and Paul Giamatti, and that's fun. But otherwise, it just doesn't work.
You know what does work, Wade, is The Night Manager. This is with Hugh Laurie and Taylor Swift's boyfriend, Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah.
It's a good show. It's based on the John le Carré novel, and it's got tight storytelling, and it's exciting. It's got a lot of punch to it. It's got a lot of suspense. You kind of get into the inner life of these characters, this British ex-soldier. And I was really taken by it. I think it's really good. You know what? I don't think that Tom Hiddleston will wind up being 007 thanks to this little series. But it's good. It's good Cloak and Dagger stuff. Really liked it a lot. And it's a 6-part miniseries. You get them all on Blu-ray. This is uncensored, which doesn't give you a whole lot more. But still, there it is. It's uncensored. And it's good. This really had a moment. People really like this thing. And it's very good. Very good. Very tense. Very fun, cat and mouse stuff. Liked it.
Well, as long as we're on the Hiddleston train, let's hit you with another one, High Rise, which did not make it into theaters. Incredibly, I don't know why. High Rise.
Supposedly it sucked. I did
Well,
not see it. I heard it was not good.
Well, look, first of all, here's the thing. You've got Tom Hiddleston. It's a film by Ben Wheatley. It did well in England. Why would you not just put this thing into a few screens? It's Magnolia. Come on. You could afford to put it into some of your Landmark screens that you own, because Mark Cuban owns Magnolia and Landmark. Why not? It doesn't cost you anything.
Now, what happened to the Paramount decree? They can't do that. A
Yeah.
studio cannot own theaters.
That you realize it expired. The consent decree expired back in the 80s. That's how Warner and Paramount were able to buy a big chunk of Man Theaters.
Man Theaters.
Yes, when I worked there. So, yes. In any case, so High Rise, here's the thing. And I don't know, again, it's not as bad as people said. It's not accessible, which has more to do with the source material. But regardless, essentially the film is based on a novel by J.G. Ballard. And if you know anything about J.G. Ballard, you understand that J.G. Ballard has two gears. J.G. Ballard, very, very famous kind of horror sci-fi novelist. And he is also the man who wrote the wonderful memoir that was adapted into Spielberg's fantastic World War II memoir, Empire of the Sun. Now, Empire of the Sun is about J.G. Ballard's growing up, World War II, China, the whole thing. It's very much his memoir of his childhood, and Spielberg made a wonderful movie of it. David Lean wanted to at one point. Spielberg wound up making the film. That's a very heartwarming, sweet film. The other J.G. Ballard is the guy who wrote Crash. No, not the one that won the Academy Award, but the one that Cronenberg made into a movie about people who crash cars and mutilate themselves because they get off on it, which a friend of mine has described as vomit, with, Holly Hunter and that film.
James Spader.
Which, I think Crash is a really cool film, but I realize that it is so deranged that it really upsets a lot of people. And High Rise has some of the same tone to it. Tom Hiddleston is a guy who, he's a doctor, moves into this very, very cool skyscraper where there are a lot of other people, including Jeremy Irons and Sienna Miller and Luke Evans, and it's not exactly the place that, it's not quite what it seems at first. And eventually it sort of becomes a microcosm of every social problem that you could possibly invent that exists in the UK. In any case, Ben Wheatley is the perfect guy to direct a J.G. Ballard adaptation. Ben Wheatley has the same tweaked view of life. Have you ever seen any Ben Wheatley movies?
Let's see what he's done.
Check out Ben Wheatley. First of all, the last one that I really thoroughly loved was a very low-budget black and white film called A Field in England, which takes place during the War of the Roses, and it gets extremely weird. It's about a bunch of people who are fleeing the battle from different sides. They meet in the field.
I have seen nothing this guy has ever done.
Really, he makes very tweaked movies. But A Field in England is terrific. The one right before A Field in England, the title of it escaping me, The Vacationing People. Look,
Field in England.
Look it up.
The Wrong Door, Down Terrace, Ideal.
No.
Inside Bergen Way, Kill List, Sightseers.
Sightseers. It's about a couple who jump in their Winnebago and they go on vacation and they start killing people. That's what I'm talking about. So that's why he's the right person for a J.G. Ballard novel. Anyway, this is a very nasty, nasty movie. It's got a wicked kind of sense of humor to it. Not very accessible. That's probably why they didn't release it, but they should have, because it has Tom Hiddleston in it and he's going to be the next James Bond, says I.
I don't know,
You don't
man.
know? Who else? Clive Owen's too old.
Yes. Idris Elba.
Idris Elba's the same age as Daniel Craig. I was a sweet thought. It would have been awesome like 5-10 years ago, but Idris Elba's not getting any younger. I mean, you want somebody who's going to be able to do like 5 or 6 of those things.
I think Hiddleston's he's a little too effete. I mean, I guess because here's the thing: Daniel Craig comes across as such a bruiser that maybe they want to go in the opposite direction with someone who's a little bit like
Roger Moore wasn't a feat. Really? He's Roger Moore.
He was the worst. And we grew up on that Bond too. That was the Bond I grew up on. And
I know.
Like Sean Connery, he's not Bond. Roger Moore is Bond.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I know better.
Yeah, exactly. Well, anyway. And then one last new movie this week, a quick little mention of a low-budget film that's about making movies. That's always worth making mention of. Shooting the Prodigal. Super low-budget film, but it's amusing in some strange ways. It's about a young Jewish film student who gets together with this Baptist preacher in the South to do a movie based on the parable of the prodigal son. It is it's a really, this is one of those low budget movies where it's not good, but you salute the effort, because darn it all, they just put everything into this movie, and you just got to applaud them, give them an A for effort. So that's from Virgil. It is called Shooting the Prodigal. It's worth a rental at the very least, I think.
You know what's worth a rental, Wade? Weiner.
This is such a disturbing documentary.
This is great.
It's so disturbing.
Well, if you don't know who Carlos Danger is, let me tell you who Carlos. I screwed up the joke.
Carlos Danger.
The best.
It's like, why would you?
Carlos
Why
Danger.
would you? Of all the names that you could come up with, what, Carlos Danger? It's so just dorky. It's just lame.
It's so. I think this makes me look cool, but really it makes me look like just the ultimate douche.
Oh,
anyway, Anthony Weiner was a New York politician, and he was running for mayor, and he winds up getting.
He used to be in the House.
And he winds up getting involved in this sex scandal that destroys his candidacy and just sends him just into obscurity until 2013, when he decides audaciously to try a comeback bid to be mayor. And then he gets brought down again by a sex scandal.
While they're making the film.
No,
this is the incredible thing. First of all, he reveals himself to these filmmakers, and even at a certain point in the film, they say, and documentarians don't usually, in films of this sort, insert themselves into the movie. They let the camera kind of do, like the Maisleys would. You let the camera sort of be there for you, and you step back. But there's a certain point in this film where they can't control themselves anymore, and they actually ask him, "Why are you letting us film this?" And he has no answer, because it's just raw narcissism. It's like it's the reality show thing. It's almost like I would rather the world see my life coming apart at the seams than live a normal life and have no one know that I exist. At least if my life is a train wreck and everyone is watching it be a train wreck, somehow that makes me somebody. It's the weirdest. He has no answer for that, and they are incredulous. They're watching this happen. They're making a movie about a guy who's supposed to be making a comeback, and it happens again while the cameras are running. And at no point does he say, "Yeah, time out. I think I don't want to make this movie anymore." He just lets it go. And you just think, what is wrong with you? I mean, I'm glad I'm watching this, because this is the only film of this kind that will ever exist, but what is wrong with you?
it's the best.
It's
This thing is
unbelievable.
just riveting. I found this thing just absolutely, and also it's really
And he's married to
a confidant of Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, Huma Abedin, who's been in the thick of not like that poor woman. As if it's not enough that she gets caught up in her husband's stuff, now she's caught up in her own stuff. You just wonder, how do these people even? How does this marriage survive? It must either be rock solid, or there's something else going on. I
Or
don't know.
maybe she has. Look, if
They have a child together.
If Hillary Clinton can survive Bill Clinton's scandals, then maybe she has designs on an office, and she can survive Anthony's
You
scandals.
watch this and you just want nothing to do with politics. It's so depressing.
This thing is it's fun. I mean, it's about a marriage in disarray. It's about living your life on social media. It's about having your life torn apart on social media. It's about
it's
running.
just
It's about run. It's about inside baseball in terms of politics.
unreal.
It's about just this fascinating scandal. It's about narcissism. It's just about everything. And Weiner is just one of the best documentaries of the year. And you just got to see it.
Yeah.
This thing is you will not believe what you are seeing. That this guy is so out of his mind.
It's absolutely true. Cute little documentary here that did very nicely at Sundance called Dark Horse, which is about these people in Wales who basically decide to try to breed a racehorse, and it's really kind of an amazing shaggy dog documentary story. It's really
It's a shaggy horse.
It's a shaggy horse is what it is. Anyway, it's really, really a sweet story. It's a beautiful. Independent of the whole idea of horse racing, it's just a beautiful story about human and animal relationships. And no jokes, please. But it really is. It's very, very sweet. And if you love horses and if you love stories of, forget about like fictional horse movies, this is really just wonderful. And the fact that it takes place in Wales just somehow makes it all so classic and so, national velvet. It's really good. It's called Dark Horse.
Okay, Wade. It's been 17 years since JFK Jr. died in a plane crash.
And he would have run for president, they say.
He would have run for president, they say, and might have even won.
Wow.
But
sad.
instead, he died in a plane crash. Very, very sad. That family is, in some sense, cursed.
They've had such their share of tragedy. It's unbelievable.
So here we have I Am JFK Jr., which is a tribute to JFK Jr. Robert De Niro's in it. We'll talk about De Niro in a second with one of the better releases of the week. Maybe not one of the better releases, but one of the better films that is coming out this week.
Which we would have talked about earlier, but it's sitting in your Blu-ray player right now, and we were watching it earlier.
Damn right.
Yep.
De Niro, Mike Tyson, Christiane Amanpour, Chris Cuomo, Oprah's in this. So it's really all about JFK. Would he have run for president? All about his life, opening up to his human side. And Michael Reagan's in this too. And it's good stuff. If you are a Kennedy-ophile, Ann Coulter's in this, and you know that Ann Coulter, that she's going to bring the honesty. You know that Ann Coulter is going to bring the human warmth.
I don't have a joke for that. I just don't. I have no comeback.
For
that.
There's a warmth to her.
Yeah, there is.
A humanity that comes across
like
in
a flamethrower. That kind of warmth.
And what she says will be learned, intellectual.
Thank you.
It'll be well thought out. Don't you think that? Okay.
If this show were actually any more popular, we'd be subject to a tweet storm tomorrow. That's what would happen.
Here's the thing. Don't you think that William F. Buckley is William F. Buckley was like an intellect. He was a writer. He was an intellect. Mm-hmm. Don't you think that he would just be rolling over in his grave when he sees like Ann Coulter and Sean Hannity?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, probably.
Those guys don't hold a candle to William F. Buckley.
No, Buckley was the man.
He was the thinker.
He was a thinker.
That's annoying.
And then we've got Foodies. Speaking of something that dovetails with movies and food, and the ice cream that Mark is going to make for me. Foodies is a documentary about foodies. And I can't say that it's really amazing. It just sort of, it goes around the world. It's a little globe-trotting movie that takes you inside the world of people that just love great food. The only interesting thing about this is that the company that basically arranged the financing and the sales of this film, Fortissimo Films, is going bankrupt. And that's a whole interesting separate story, but it speaks to just how incredibly difficult it is for companies, established companies, that even have a successful track record to continue to operate in the kind of between the seams where these little independent companies used to operate, where they just make movies and sell them at film festivals and make movies and sell them at film festivals, and they'd sell them to enough territories around the world that they'd continue to make money. And that kind of marginal business is getting harder and harder and harder. So you wonder if movies like Foodies will continue to be made. Again, not a great film, but certainly has an audience. If you love food and you love traveling, it's a movie for you. But increasingly, stuff like this is not going to be on DVD. It's going to wind up on public television. It's going to wind up somewhere buried on Netflix. So you may have to just dig and search for it. So interesting world, interesting times we're living in. And then our last documentary this week, also from Kino Lorber, State of Control. Yet another absolutely fascinating documentary, kind of one of those undercover documentaries. We've had a number of them that go into North Korea. This one goes undercover in Tibet. And, China is very, very, very... it's intensely controlled, the access to Tibet. You can go to China, you can fly into Shanghai, you can go to Beijing, you can go to any of the major metropolitan areas in China without much fanfare. But Tibet is really still a very, very sensitive subject matter, as one might imagine. So in any case, a couple of American filmmakers orchestrated an undercover filmmaking journey to Tibet here, and it is like the stuff of spy movies. What happens? It is really, really amazing. It is an incredible film, and I'm surprised this thing hasn't gotten better play. It is really worth checking out. State of Control, really, really incredibly timely. And all right, Mark, it is time for us to discuss the wonders of Martin Brest.
Well,
we're breast men. That's what I just want to say.
Well, one film. Yes,
Yes.
I'm not sure I'm going to sit here and extol the virtues of Meet Joe Black.
Oh, come on. Meet Joe Black's a great movie. Yeah, it's okay.
Exactly. Although he did direct Beverly Hills Cop.
So good.
But right after
Instead of a woman.
Instead of a woman. God. So speaking of actors who finally won their Oscar for a film they didn't deserve it for.
Oh, my gosh.
Anyway, Midnight Run, which he did after Beverly Hills Cop, is one of my favorite comedies of all time. I love this film so much. I'm so glad it's out on Blu-ray. Is this Blu-ray any good? It's okay. We are big fans of Shout Select, big fans of Shout Factory, Scream Factory, the whole nine yards. The transfer here is okay. Some of the nighttime exteriors are kind of grainy. There's a bunch of...
Sound is tinny.
Yeah, there's a bunch of extras. The interview with Yaphet Kotto is it's like a recorded phone conversation, literally, just an audio conversation, just set to stills.
Yeah.
So that's not great. And then the interview with De Niro, who, thank you for doing something. Thank you for acknowledging the importance of the film and that it is a terrific film. The interview with De Niro is just terrible. I mean, he's not a good interview anyway.
No.
But basically what they did was they took a lousy interview with De Niro, a bunch of nothing bites that he always gives, and they just padded it out with scenes from the film, voiceover from some guy who sounds like he's doing an infomercial, and it's just not it's a disappointing supplement. I was hoping for more, even though we all know that you get what you get from De Niro. So the supplements are not that great, and the transfer is not that great. However, I would highly recommend buying this because I love this movie.
I agree. I agree completely.
Midnight Run's great. Love
it's
it.
so much fun.
Yep, agreed.
You lied to me first.
These things go down. These things go down.
So great. All right, let's knock out a little bit of television, and then we'll call it quits on the show. Real fast. A couple of classic TV bits here. Hee Haw, the collector's edition. 14 DVDs. We've talked about little tidbits of Hee Haw. This is all the Hee Haw you will ever be able to handle. This is Hee Haw Laughs, Laffs. The Hee Haw Collection Cornfield Classics, and then just the plain original 7 DVD set, the Hee Haw Collection. This thing was just laugh-in for Hicks, which was the whole point. I'm sure that was the pitch. And it came out of Tennessee, and it just, this show was incredibly popular for decades, like from 1969 to about 1992. Really amazing run. Just an amazing run this show had. And stupid humor, but funny in its own weird, sweet, goofy, charming way. Lots of great music performances. And that's from Time Life. And then also from Time Life, we had the complete Carol Burnett show collection a couple of years ago, and the lost episodes have been kind of trickling out as well. That is now gets its own great box set, 45 original episodes. These are the original ones that have not been seen for 40 years, and lots of great guest performances on here. So they get their own fantastic box set as well, which is much more solid than the one that was given the original complete series. So this is worth checking out as well, especially to see, Carol Burnett and Lucille Ball. That's just golden. Jim Nabors. I mean, it's just endless how much fun there is on this. Phyllis Diller, Burt Reynolds. Come on, this is just a classic of its time. So the original great sketch comedy show where people just could not control themselves. That is the Carol Burnett Show, The Lost Episodes.
NCIS Los Angeles, which is another NCIS show. That's where they said, you know what, we need to do another NCIS show, and it needs to cost less money, so let's shoot it in L.A., where everybody already lives. Mm-hmm. And that's what they did. Yep. And it co-stars LL Cool J and the guy who played Robin. And there you go. No one cares. Criminal Minds has been on for 11 years. Now, Criminal Minds recently made the news, Wade. Why did Criminal Minds make the news?
Because a certain member of the cast kicked a writer and ruined his career.
Got fired. Thomas Gibson.
What was he thinking?
Kicked a writer, got fired, and then Shamar Moore tweeted or Facebooked or Snapchatted, it's about time, or he finally got his kind of a thing. So Yeah. Now, Joe Mantegna's on this, so even though I have not watched season 11, nor do I have any reason to watch season 11, we're just telling you it is here. It does have Joe Mantegna, so at least Criminal Minds will always have 1% respect in my mind because Joe Mantegna is awesome.
Sweet. I don't know what it is about Dick Wolf. That guy just he just doesn't go away, and he just franchises everything. After inflicting 970,000 episodes of Law and Order and 10 different Law and Order shows, he's now milking this Chicago thing endlessly. We now have season 4 of Chicago Fire, which is an okay show. It's the Dick Wolf thing. There's not a lot there that really kind of blows you away. I mean, it's solid. It's good. It's well written. It's just not remarkable in any way. It's just it is what it is. It's people in Chicago and they fight fires and they got drama and lives and all that. But now he's also expanded to Chicago Med. We get season 1 of Chicago Med, which also has Chicago Fire and Chicago PD crossover episodes. So he's got the whole Chicago thing locked up. But here's the thing about Chicago Med. You know why this is worth watching? 2 words: Oliver Platt. Seriously,
Oliver Platt is becoming just he's becoming like this enormous mountain of. He's like John Goodman-esque.
He's
this enormous mountain of a man.
But he's great. He's just always good in everything he does,
Yes,
and he gets better and better and better.
Yes,
He's just so incredibly good.
'Tis true.
So, So there it is, Chicago Med season 1. It's a little ER-esque, and it's a little bit hokey how it crosses over with all these other Dick Wolf shows. But you know what? It's got a good cast, and Oliver Platt is just golden. I mean, you put an actor like that on a TV show, and you start to understand why he is the guy that he is. And then we also got Grey's Anatomy, complete 12th season. This thing should have died 3 or 4 years ago. It really should have. I watched this show religiously for about 3 or 4 seasons, and then it just started to run aground. I'm kind of amazed that this thing still, after 12 seasons, is kicking. But you can tell they're really, really just struggling to figure out how to maintain the drama and maintain the interest. It just does not do what ER did. ER really did this right. So Grey's Anatomy, originally a good show, but 12 seasons is well past its prime. And Shameless, the complete 6th season, is again This is kind of a quintessential Showtime show. I'm surprised that this thing has lasted this long, to be honest. But it's got another season coming. This is on Blu-ray with Ultraviolet, and it doesn't come with many extras. But the only reason I think this really keeps on kicking is just because it's got a great cast. William H. Macy mainly. I love a lot of the other people in the cast, but Emmy Rossum has done better work, and. It feels like it just feels a little forced. It feels like a little too much crazy and a little too much contrivance for one show, and somehow it keeps going 6 seasons. So under the radar, I guess.
Wade, I was a big fan of Blunt Talk, which is a Starz show starring Patrick Stewart as a newsman whose life is pretty much a hellscape of. You have 4-letter words and bad attitudes and all that sort of stuff. And I got to say, this show sucks. It's just terrible. You know what? It's one of those shows that says, oh, I'm swearing, we're edgy.
Yeah.
And I just was really turned off by it. I was very surprised. I love Patrick Stewart, not only for Star Trek, but just because he's one of our better actors. I think he's great. It's too bad that his movie career never really took off.
No.
He played the bad guy in Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson and Julia Roberts. We thought maybe that would be like a little entree into A-list stuff. Didn't happen.
Nope.
And I just find this thing very affected. I mean, yes, it's profane and nasty and crass, and because his last name is Blunt. Wade, you know what that means?
Yeah.
He's Blunt.
Yeah. Woo.
I was very disappointed, but you know what, Patrick Stewart. If you want to see Patrick Stewart,
Dr. Xavier is sort of as far as his film career ever really got, and
but even that is like it's not about.
Well, no,
it's about the character. It's about being a comic book guy. It's just, there's some funny stuff in it, but I just think I wish it had more to say about TV journalism. I wish it wasn't so proud of the fact that it's profane. I just think it's just painfully not funny.
All right, that's it. We're done. Send us all your good stuff at gods at DigiGods. No. Send us your good stuff, gods at DigiGods.com. We'll see you next week.